the screen. We are going to read two subheadings, and they are very brief. So I jumped a lot. Yeah, so it's from here.
Creating something from nothing. Everything you see around you was created, first in the mind, then in reality. Even God, the Father of all creation, started from nothing except the mind, which we call energy at another level. The first step in creating something from nothing, therefore, is informing it in your mind and making it clear. If you want a house, first of all, make it clear in your mind what sort of house you want, how big, how you want the interior to look like, and all the details. Your mind will thus start going to work until it becomes a reality. Even getting a baby starts in the mind. Either you strongly oppose it or strongly go for it. A job, a course, passing exams, anything. The power that is within us is enormous. We only need but to learn how to use it. OPP. I once read a story online. It was an old lady who was asking a very renowned pastor a question about what happened of her prayer and wish. The pastor would get a number of, the pastor would get a number of questions and choose one among them to publish. So it was this one that was published, and being a subscriber, I got the same email. The lady asked, I can't understand why I'm in a nursing home while all the while I have been praying to God that I may not go to the nursing home. How come God did not answer my prayer? Sorry to say, but the pastor did not even understand why, and instead started explaining in the ordinary pastoral way that God's ways are not our ways, blah, blah. But I believe I do understand it because the same God who created everything created these natural laws, and it is not likely that he can contradict himself. The lady had her mind filled with images of nursing home, what she didn't want. Imagination is power. I tell you the truth, this is the law. God cannot blatantly disobey his own laws that he had approved. If you can see it in your mind, you can seize it in reality. What would you have told the old lady? She did not know how to convert something from nothing, just like the universe was built from nothing. This point is just to emphasize the idea of getting clear about your goals and objectives. The greatest work is in the mind, not in the body. In the thinking realm, not in the doing realm. Doing is a consequence of thinking. Whatever a man's mind can conceive and believe, that he can achieve. The universe conspires. A way shall be created to him who knows where he is going. Once you know what you want and have become very clear about it, you are now more likely to achieve it than ever, even miraculously, and mostly so. Why? Because you are starting to be in harmony with the greatest creative energy, the universe of power. You are starting to invoke your natural powers and make you a God, being the image and likeness of God the Father. There is where everything starts to work in your favor to ensure you get that which you are working on. We shall discuss this in the book bit by bit. It is written in the scriptures, all things work together for the good of those who love God. Seen in another way, the converse is most likely true. But what I want to emphasize is that once you are already mentally clear about your goals, your dreams, a way shall be created to aid you achieve it, because every force in the universe starts conspiring to work for your good or otherwise, depending on what is clear in your mind.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Yes. So we will pick it from there next week when we are talking about the tools. Last week, we were talking about why we get what we don't want. So we start from that point of why we get that which we do not want. And then we move to the point where now, how do we start getting that which we want? And then next week, we talk about now the tools that we can deliberately use to achieve that which we want. And we said this is a very relevant discussion, more so as we start the year, since many people keep thinking that the year is going to be better by chance. I love to say it's not by chance, it's by choice. And if you notice the two words, the difference is inside, it's not outside. Yes, they both share some letters that are generally outside. And it's also true that the difference is in us, not outside us. So if you remember last week, we were talking about our inner world creates our outer world. That was a quote by T. Harv Eker. So let's begin from there. Somebody would like to share something in experience. Yes, Kevin.
More often than not, I imagined so many things, and I make plans out of the imaginations that I have. But again, more often I've been a victim of procrastination. How do you handle procrastination that comes out of imaginations? Thank you.
Maybe what I can say right now is our achievement starts with a desire. And there is what we call a burning desire. That is going to be our second chapter, where we will deal with all this. But for now, what we can say is that if you just imagined it, I love the word you used, imagination. And that's a very powerful tool that we use, because when we say you, first of all, you are creating something from nothing, it means you're creating it from imagination. You put it in your mind and you're able to visualize and see it. And the moment you're able to visualize and see it, coupled with sufficient amount of energy, and you notice we talked about energy there, sufficient amount of energy, you're going to convert this into reality. If you lack that energy, then it means you lack the desire. And that is where procrastination comes in. We are going to deal with this in the second and the third chapter more conclusively. Yes, more conclusively. Second, third chapter, and even a bit of fourth chapter, but largely in the second and the third chapter. It will deal with that. How do you handle all that procrastination thing? And how do you give yourself energy? So it's quite chronological.
I would like to say that I also have that challenge and have had that challenge for a long time about procrastination. But I think one of the major challenges about causes of procrastination could be the perfectionism and trying to imagine how everything possibly wrong could go wrong. And then imagining yourself being embarrassed for the rest of your life by that mistake that you made. But imagine we cannot progress unless we make mistakes. So the idea, I think the best thing to do is just to go ahead and to do what you have purposed to do afraid. Just act afraid. And then as you learn from your mistakes, we need to be able to be humble enough to learn from our mistakes so that the next time we're able to act on. In fact, that's the purpose of memory. The purpose of memory is not just to keep us mired in regret and remorse, but to learn from our mistakes. And then another thing which you had said was, I liked that very much, that about creation through bringing forth children. I was trying to describe to somebody who was saying that the way we can prevent abortion is by providing contraceptives, but every contraceptive has a failure rate. And the mindset of the girl or the couple, whether they're married or not, a couple who's using contraceptives has a contraceptive mentality. And that is, we do not want a child. That's very clear in their mind, a couple that has the contraceptive mentality. So as all contraceptives have failure rates, for example, the condom is as high as 18%, which the world tries to lie to people, called safe sex. So as soon as they conceive, then the next thing will be how to remove this child by abortion. So like you said, that mentality of what is my mentality towards the child that I'm going to create, because parents are co-creators with God. God wants to bring children in the world, but he's not going to drop them from the sky. His design was that they come into a family, or a loving family of emotionally, spiritually healthy parents who are committed to each other for life. And so we are co-creators with God in bringing children into this world. That's why we should take our sexuality very seriously, because it's about bringing God's way of bringing life into the world. I like that very much. Parents being co-creators with God. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, there is that story that we read about this old lady who was praying not to go to the nursing home. And I remember last week we were talking about this power of prayer. Most times we do not take prayer seriously, or rather we do not know how to pray. Because when we pray, if you're praying and you cannot feel anything or you cannot visualize anything, it's nothing. But remember, the words that we use are very powerful. When I say, I do not want to go to the hospital, what image comes to my mind? Is it do or not, or want, or go, or hospital, or all of them? Which image gets clear in my mind? Somebody can say.
All of the above.
Usually, an image that comes to your mind is for an object, for something that can be seen. And that is the image that gets printed boldly. When I say not going to the hospital, the picture in my mind is hospital. If I say not an elephant, what picture comes to the mind? It's an elephant. Not an elephant is not anything. You see, if I say elephant and I say not an elephant, the image that gets into my mind is the very same image, elephant. And so there is power in the language, and that's why changing our destiny, even crafting our goals, which is what we will be discussing next week, starts with understanding the power of the language and how the language needs to be formatted. You see, when you say, when you find somebody who talks about, who, like you were saying, avoid children by focusing on not having children, you will have them. You see, and somebody else wants to have children but focuses on the fears of not having, they end up not having, because the mind creates some sense of emotion. And last week we were talking about your emotions are probably the best ways to identify whether you are moving towards the direction you want or the direction you do not want. So we've got to learn the power of our language when we are trying to create some reality. Anybody who can share an experience or an otherwise experience? You know, there are positive and negative experiences. Yeah. Somebody wants to share something on that? Yes, John?
Hey, morning, everyone. Eh?
Morning.
I think for me, this particular topic has a very great impact, and it is something I like preaching to people day in, day out. Because most of the time we cannot move forward. Most of the time when procrastination comes in, it's because of fear, the way Dr. said. It's because of what will people say about me? What will the society think about me? what will, we have all these what ifs. And basically, the way Paul Job said, it has to start from the inside. You have to start to build yourself from the inside. I am an exercise enthusiast. I started doing exercise when I was I think when I was 20 years old. By then I used to live in high-rise, Paul. I used to live in high-rise back then. And I used to do jogging from high-rise up to Karen, and then I come back. And many people used to ask me, you're slender. Why are you exercising? But I used to do it to build my mental strength. Because growing up, I knew my purpose is to do great things. And I try as much as possible to conceive positive vibes. I don't like a situation whereby I don't like sitting around people who like complaining, people who like just talking about negative things, because when you conceive that, that is what will be putting out there. And most of the things that I've been doing are things that I conceived in my mind, and I put in the energy, and later in life, or rather after some time, they came to pass. Because I have always told myself, if I happen to have a little patience with myself, just myself, and then I can put in the time, and I can put in the energy, and then I can conceive it, or I can actually bring it to reality. But I have to conceive it in my mind first. I'll give an example that I'm the kind of person who, initially, when I started out doing business, I remember back in the year 2000, I did build a business empire. And when a time came, I thought I need to do more. I brought it down and then started building up afresh. I didn't have the fear, what is the society going to say? Who is going to, like the people around me, as long as it is going to benefit me, and as long as this is the direction I want to take as an individual and as a person, and then I make sure that people around me also benefit from it, then I take that direction and I move with it. So most of the time we are not able to grow because we have doubts. Our faith is very little, and that is another aspect of life where I keep on asking people, where is your faith? We go to church every day to pray to God, but at the same time, our faith is it's almost close to nil, not even the size of a mustard seed. Because our main purpose in this world, as I said, is you wake up in the morning and say your prayers. You have no control of the day. Once you say your prayers, you leave it to God, then you put your energy to work, and then God will do the rest. You're not supposed to wake up and start worrying, oh, I'm supposed to do this. What if? No, that is not your bit. Your bit is to wake up and thank him, not to ask him, always putting our hands out there, asking him, oh, give me this, give me this, give me that. No, we are supposed to thank him. And then he will give us what we are asking for, or rather what he will, because he already knows what we need. So our work is only to thank him for the previous day, for the previous night, and then we put our effort to work on exactly what we want to achieve as a people. So I think when we're talking about the mind is a powerful tool. I just bumped into something I wrote, I think years back. It was written by William James, a distinguished psychologist and a philosopher. He said, compared with what we ought to be, we are only half awake. We are making use on only a small part of our physical and mental resources. Stating the thing broadly, the human individual thus lives far within his limits. He possesses powers of various sorts, which he habitually fails to use. That one you're talking about the mind. Once you know this, that what the mind can do for you, then you'll have to stretch your mind to limits that are here to infinity. So let us not limit ourselves. Let us not limit our mind. Let us not let us not think negatively. 2 years ago, I went to start a project. I was a farming project, I was telling Paul. And I said, I want to do a $1 billion project 2 years ago. It was starting from nothing. And then 2 years later, an organization approached me. It's called a Bridge to Billions, or rather Bridge to Billionaires. From Europe approached me to partner with me to do the same projects with the UN. And just a few days I was thinking, oh, 2 years ago, I said I want to do a $1 billion project. 2 years ago, now later, there's an organization that has approached me that is called Bridge to Billionaires. And I was thinking, wow, this is what I conceived 2 years ago. And now it is coming to pass. So let us try and align our minds with energy and action without fear of the what ifs. So I think that is a little conversation I'd love to share with you guys this morning. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, John, for that. Because essentially, that's what we are talking about. I love to ask people, I love to say to people that I'm always lucky. And sometimes people look at me like, what is it that you mean? What makes you so lucky? And I'll use that as a prayer also. And for some reason, I'm always lucky. I always get the best of everything. You see, at least to my to the best of my knowledge, because I've put that in my mind that no matter what happens around me, I'm always lucky. You've talked about faith, and I know that this is part of the biggest trouble. Most of us are calling ourselves prayer warriors, but we really do not know how to pray, and we do not have as much faith. Because I love to ask, many preachers will tell us about have faith, but they do not know how people should have faith. So I love to say that they've never told us where to buy this faith. Yeah, you cannot go to a supermarket and pick some 2 kilograms of faith. It's very difficult. So unless we understand how things work, you see, just like we understand that if you plant a seed in the ground, it grows on certain conditions of temperature and pressure, certain environmental conditions. So we've got to know what is our work and what do we need to do to make it grow. And then we leave the rest. And that is it. So it's good to know the role of faith. And the other issue that goes with faith, or the opposite, is fear. That's why we are told, have no fear. So I love to say also that 3 things. When you where you get fear, you also get doubt and worry. And that is now where you start asking yourself, what if it doesn't work, and things like that. You're concerned about other people because you've never learned to be yourself. You've never learned to follow your instinct, your intuition. You've never learned to follow the guidance of the Holy Spirit, if we have to talk spiritually. That is what people call the Holy Spirit. That's what we call in churches the Holy Spirit. Because you're now listening to yourself, and you're now able to follow what your heart is directing you to follow, which is what is right for you. It might not make sense. It might not be logical. In fact, if you share with people, and that's why people will discourage you, what makes you believe you can do it? Yes, look at around, nobody ever did it. And that has happened in my life countless number of times. By the way, when I was coming to Nairobi, I was literally homeless from home. But I conceived in my mind that I'm going to have a house in Nairobi, not paying rent, that I'm going to be somebody in Nairobi. And I was just coming to study in the university. And even coming to the university, like I related last week, it was just a conceived idea. It was practically, by all logical sense, impossible, because I was out of school. And I love to say to many people that even to date, some people, when I meet them and they hear that I even went to the university, they ask, but how? The last I checked, you were not even going to school. You had dropped out of school. But it was in the mind that at one point, whether in a chief's camp, wherever it is, I will sit that KCSE exam and I will pass and I will go to the University of Nairobi. The only thing I always also say is that most times it happens even much earlier than you think. It will happen much earlier. In my mind, I knew it would take like 10 years or something, because I thought I would go look for a job, work somewhere, maybe get school fees, go back to school. But as long as it's clear in your mind how is none of your business, it's going to come to pass. You just need to hold that faith and imagine it and get excited about it. It works. I've used it throughout my life. So I know that this element of fear and worry and doubt, that is where the devil takes advantage. And that's where we become slaves of darkness, slaves of failure, slaves of all sorts of things. We need to put it in our minds, get to know what we want, and then we are going to start to create things from nothing, from nowhere, literally. And people will call you lucky because we are a blessed people, a chosen race. We are already empowered with all that we need. Problem is, we've never learned to make use of the most powerful tool that God granted us. And this makes me remember, probably I also have it written in the book, that when I did after doing my Form 4, I was called to a school where, because we were schooling in small schools, I was called to go and help children to revise. And I loved English. So one of the subjects that they gave me was English. And I gave children this composition that it would end with a phrase, I came to realize that that was the most powerful gift that God gave me. It would come to an end like that. That would be the last line. I came to realize that that was the most powerful, the most important gift that God gave me. By the way, in all honesty, I expected that it would come back to the mind, that mind is the most powerful, the most important gift that God gave me. But people wrote all sorts of things. None came to the conclusion of the mind. And I realized that it's not that obvious. Yeah, people wrote about their mothers, about their parents, about their everything else but the mind. But if you come to look at it, the most powerful tool that God gave you is your ability to think. It's your ability to make judgments. It's your ability, it's the fact that you have brain in your head. And the moment we learn to use it, we are going to be a lucky people. And our years are going to be filled with joy because that's the way it was designed. It's a law. Yeah, just like if you throw things up, they fall down. And it took me time trying to wonder why they come down. The same thing that was disturbing, it's difficult to understand what was disturbing Newton. Yeah, that there is also space up there, but it doesn't want to go up, it comes down. So that's also a law of gravity. So there are all sorts of laws that were created that have been used for ages, and they will always be used. Any other contribution on the same? Or...
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I just want to agree with you of the power of the mind. And I think this was confirmed to me by a friend of mine. I also believe I'm lucky. I also believe that, actually, I tell people that recently, now that I'm in that age group of somebody being called older mama, so I tell people that God always gets to tell other people that, watch out, mama kapite, let this mama go. And I've seen it even at the airport when I was traveling as a civil servant, and I didn't have a letter. And I didn't even know, it didn't even occur to me. And here I am at the counter, my last bonus checked in, and I'm just going in. And they asked me, and innocently I say where I work. And it's like, where is the letter? And I said, I didn't know, I just didn't know. And they said, now you can't travel. I told them, no, I will travel, the two of you will just decide and let mama pass because there's nothing wrong I'm going to do. And they did. And they actually agreed and let me go. And I remember praying and asking God, my intention is not to make these young people lose their job. I need you to just walk with me. And I went to that country and I was even able to drive in that country. And I came back and I was grateful, you know. Then there was also an incident where I talked to a friend of mine that I wanted to drive a double cabin car. And after some years, he met me and said, Eunice, you remember this car you said you would one day drive it? I said, what? I had forgotten. Yeah, so there's power in the mind and it creates, and that's why sometimes when you get somebody who speaks negatively, you can train them to reframe their statements, and that's powerful. So all of us, if we find that we are talking negatively, then we need to look at reframing our statements, and that really helps. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That statement alone, that you believe you are always lucky, will always get you out of any trouble. It doesn't matter what happens around you. You will be shielded because of the power of your tongue. And that's why, again, we must be careful about the utterances that we make about ourselves and even the people around us. And you've got to know that you can curse people. And this is very serious, by the way. I've seen it literally. So be careful what you say when you are angry with emotions, what you say about yourself with emotion, whether it's emotion of joy, love, or emotion of anger. Those are powerful words. And that's the way everything gets created. So even if you hear people talking about, it seems like I'll never get married, seems like that is what will happen in their lives. Because when we say, we create. Apparently, I said this probably last week. Somebody read this book of mine, and then he went ahead to write another book. When we speak, we create, something like that. Every word that we speak with emotions will come to something that we can see. It comes to the visible. It comes from the invisible to the visible. That's the way it works. Yes.
Yeah. I sorry, I joined a bit late, but I'm happy I'm together with you. What I would like to share is just to pick up from what OPP said, and that is that about the composition that he gave the students. I've never thought of it that way. You can imagine over 30 years of being a writer, where you ask you think of the conclusion, not the intro. In journalism, the intro is as powerful as the headline. So the editor will determine your story from the intro. If it is boring, they'll say, Paul, go and rewrite it or just forget about it. That's why we talk about the inverted pyramid, whereby the most important point is put up, then it goes down, so that the sub-editor or editor can just chop off from anywhere in the mid at the bottom. So what I like about your challenge to the students was that you wanted them to think. Okay, you challenge them. You do not tell them direct that I want you people to think, and I think that reflects very clear, very well with something that I heard somebody say, that we need to read, we need to think, and we need to reflect. Then after that, we need to apply, and it's best to go in that order. So, like with you, you gave these kids the exam. And as usual, of course, you told them it was what? Was it 1 page or 2 page?
I think it was 2 pages. It's been ages. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's over 20.
No, so it's okay. So of course, the more you find most of those students were in a hurry to fill that page. Those few of them were reflecting on how to fill that page, but with the right content. But the others who are more critical, they wanted to make sure they answer your question, but at the same time, they fill those 2 pages. And I think that is life. In our lives, like even here where we are now, we have different types of people. Those who will rush to fill those 2 pages, those who will reflect to make sure that they put the right thing there. And then there are those ones who are like the national flag of Kenya and others. Mara huku, Mara huku. So they pick from this side and they pick from this side. But that was a good challenge. But I'll pick up, I'll use that in another forum where I am to help us discuss some of the issues even better by making people think of the end, not at the beginning. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Odemvulale. Most times when we have the end in mind clear, the journey is more bearable. Welcome, Anthony Murithi. Good to see that today you're with us beyond 8.
Thank you very much, PP and the team. Apologies, I also logged in a bit late. Nililalalala kidogo, I think I had a busy day yesterday. However, I've gotten into the rhythm. And today's topic is, for me, is what people sometimes like calling a pet topic. Because some people will dismiss you in life based on what we may consider logical. And so let me draw my example from the power of the mind. And I'm thinking when sometimes what makes us not achieve what we set out to do is because of sometimes it may take a bit of time. Sometimes it might take a bit of time. And of course, like many have said, is because of discouragement from other people. But how do I treat discouragement from other people? I do like what my daughter does. When my daughter is seated here and I go and she's watching maybe a very interesting cartoon and I see it or I pass in front of her, what she does is that she pushes me aside, pushes me aside. So that's what I do to those detractors. I push them aside because my eyes, I want to see, I fixed on that cartoon, on that screen, on that thing that I want to achieve. And maybe for those who don't know me, I'm a person with a disability. I use a wheelchair. And for a person with a disability, and especially in an environment like Kenya, it's not very easy. And I remember, just to share one of the things that I always wanted to do when I was young, was to drive. I loved cars. And one day, and as far as primary school, high school, I told myself, one day I will drive my own car. One day I'll drive my own car. Now my disability is such that I use a wheelchair, and out of my two hands, my right hand is not strong. It's very weak. It can't do anything. So I have only one hand. Then of my legs are also weak, but the right one is a bit stronger than the left one. So there's a bit of power, as they say. So, and most people, they really, when I shared with friends, I told them, one day I'm going to drive a car. They would tell me, Moridi, I've booked you to be my I want you to book me as your driver. But then I told them, no, I'm going to drive it. In fact, I'll drive you. And so a lot of people, including even my people from my own village, almost even my even close relatives, they discouraged me. But I fixed my mind on that, and I said, one day I have to. So several years ago, which is now like now it's now 11 years, something more than, because after that I also went to driving school, although it was again very hard because again, logically, a person with a disability cannot drive a car that is not modified. So, but I fixed my eyes on that. And today it's 11 years. I drive myself. I move around. I drive my family. I go out, drive at 100 kilometers per hour. Okay, I don't do very high speeds, but I can give you a challenge, of course. I think I've driven up 120 with one hand and 1 foot. And so many people, they don't, it's like they can't see that. So when we fix our imaginations on what we want to achieve, we are able to achieve that thing. And then we challenge what is called the logical. Logically, yeah, that can't be possible. Like practically, hapaniwezekani. Like the people are saying, hey, pipi ule hakuwa shule, ameenda university, it baffles. It is like out of the ordinary. So that is what the power of imagination and sticking to the goal and pushing aside the obstructions that can help us achieve. The thing is, it might take a little longer, But as long as the eyes are fixed on it, you will get there. Thank you very much, Pipi.
Thank you very much, Muridi. And I know you have more stories about the same because at least I know you. And
Yes.
I know you will keep sharing them. Thank you very much for being part of this. In fact, if for those of us who've read the scriptures, we know that when Peter was called by Jesus to step into the water, he did not sink until he started focusing on the tides. Most times our problem is we focus on the problem. We do not focus on where we need to focus on. We do not focus on the solution. We focus on the problem. That's where we miss it. You see, it doesn't matter what is happening, COVID or no COVID. It doesn't matter whether there is pandemic or whatever, endemic, whatever it is. It doesn't matter whether the people are, it's written in the Psalms, is it 99? 1,000 may fall beside you, 10,000 on your right side, but it will not touch you. Usually our problem is what we focus on. We focus on troubles, we get more of them. The same thing happened to the Israelites. They were walking in the desert and they kept saying, we will die in the desert. We will die in the desert. Why did you bring us to die here? They died in the desert because that's what they focused on. That's what they were seeing. And it said, according to your faith, let it be done to you. Problem most times is our little faith. And that goes hand in hand with what Maurice is stating there and answering. How do we focus? We set lower goals. And it's because we do not believe in ourselves. We do not believe we can. Why? Because we jump into how will it be possible? In other words, we are trying to cage our God into some basket. This is all he can do. And that is not possible. We have limitless, infinite God. We cannot cage him and put for him what is possible and what is not possible. You see, and that's why we are told, my ways are beyond your ways and past your ways. My thoughts are not like your thoughts, are beyond your thoughts. So let's not try to give, most times we fail because we give God a formula. I want to buy a car, but because I want to buy a car, I need to have this money. And now in order to have this money, I need to have a job. And in order to have a job, I need to have a school. And then now we start telling God how we need to achieve this. That's not our business. We are not supposed to advise the creator of everything. Ours is to know what we want, put it in our minds, start focusing on it. And how do we keep that focus? It is that which we call keeping that goal in our heart. If it is important for us, we will not struggle to keep it in our minds. In conclusion, because it's already 8:15, actually 1 minute after, in conclusion, up to now, from last week and this week, we want to conclude that one, our assignment is to get clear about what we want. The other thing is, if we know what we do not want, let's get rid of it from our minds. Let's not focus on it. Instead, let's focus on that which we want. And which tool do we have so far is imagination. And imagination is free. Nobody is going to charge you. If anybody wants to charge you for it, just tell them I will pay. Yes, just sit somewhere and imagine. If fear is coming to you, imagine, just change it to imagination. You fear that you're going to be late. This is the best test, by the way, you can try. I've tried these things, all of them. When I'm going, I think I'm going to be late for something, I convert that to being early. And I start imagining myself being early and doing things much earlier there. Then I reach early. This thing works all over, anywhere. So let's be people who know what they want and focus on it and imagine it. We are going to learn more about the tools that we can use next week. But so far, the moment you realize that you are feeling negative, you're feeling fear, just get to know that you are bringing the wrong things into your life. This is beyond any drug, any medicine, any immunity, any prayer. This is the way it is. Even when you are praying and you feel fear in you and you feel worry, you're not comfortable, you're bringing wrong things into your mind. So we must feel at peace. We must feel being told, peace, be still, fear not. You must stay calm. You must get rid of that which you do not want in your mind. It doesn't matter. If you're looking for a baby, by the way, visualize it, put it in your mind. These are things that I love to say. In Live Your Dream, we only teach what we practice. We only talk about what we've done and we know to be working. So if you're thinking about marriage, you must put it in your mind and visualize it. Not the worry that I may not be married, or it doesn't matter. What you put in your mind is what's going to happen to you. Thank you very much.